The 2025 U.S. Farm Report College Roadshow from the University of Minnesota is brought to you exclusively by Beck's. From farmers' first pass in the field to the final one at harvest, it's a game plan rooted in faith and belief. Beck's Hybrids is with you every turn because both on and off the field, we're all farmers at heart. See why at beckshybrids.com.
Welcome back to the University of Minnesota for our College Roadshow here in Minneapolis. Excited for our conversation today with Ed Ussett, Pauline Van Erden, as well as Brian Bohr to talk about, navigate some of these challenges that we're having right now. Ed, there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to policy-wise, but let's start with just we keep hearing about these piles of soybeans. I think the governor here said, we're going to have so many soybeans, nowhere to take them, that we're going to put them in garages. I mean, so much now. But as you see what it's actually happening now that we're in harvest, what have we seen happen with basis, and what are the cash prices that farmers are seeing here?
Well, I'm kind of surprised. A couple of weeks ago, I really was concerned that we wouldn't find a home for all the soybeans, but I'm talking to people in the country. They found a place for them. They're in storage. They're holding out. Prices are not good. Probably $9.25 a bushel in much of southern Minnesota, somewhere in that area. But we found room for the soybeans. The problem, I think, is going to be in the next couple of weeks because a lot of space was dedicated to soybeans. Where does the corn go? We're going to have corn piles.
Yeah, so what type of yields are we talking? We heard some promising expectations on Crop Tour this year. We found really solid yields in southern Minnesota. What are we seeing now that harvest is going on?
I think we're seeing good yields in soybeans. I think there's a good chance in Minnesota we'll set a state record for average soybean yields. Not by a lot, 52 bushels is our record. I like to think we have a shot at 53 for a state average. Corn yields, we have an outside shot to top 200 bushels an acre for a state.
Well, and when you look at prices today, in some cases a little bit higher than we saw at this time last year, but still those yields are going to help. And so, Pauline, when you look at last year, Minnesota farmers saw the lowest farm income in 20 years. What's your expectation now that yields are coming in? We know input costs. What's your expectation for 2025?
Unfortunately for crop farmers, that looks like more of the same, low prices, even with the better yields, but input costs are up. Certainly the ECAP payment that was received earlier this year was helpful. That provided some cash. We actually included that income in last year's numbers, though, on the balance sheet as an accounts receivable. So it looks to be another challenging year with crop producers having, losses per acre on corn and soybean production.
Yeah, and we've been, following kind of the updates from the Trump administration on these possible farmer aid payments and when those could come, delayed because of the government shutdown, but still waiting on details from that. I mean, but when you look at the balance sheet today, are more payments needed for agriculture?
Well, something's needed. I know farmers would rather be able to sell their crop at a profitable price and not receive payments, of course. Payments are a Band-Aid. Hopefully we can find new solutions to help replace markets, find new markets, all of that. But, payments would be helpful at this challenging time.
Yeah, there are challenges. I mean, we talked about it with Ed. We talked about it with Pauline. So Brian, what are the main challenges that you're hearing, that you're seeing, that you're really trying to prepare this next generation for?
Well, that's a great question. So, and I think it's that thing right now, we're seeing these challenging times. And I think it's this question as you look at education, the students here, for example, there are enormous opportunities out there in innovation and so on going on. And so these periods of, I came through a cycle of the 1980s that had some of these challenges emerging here. Certainly with trade was part of that as well. So to not lose sight of the fact that in agriculture, the opportunities to work in agriculture is going to be there. And thinking about that long run, I think for farmers too, now it's that piece where we have these cyclical phenomena that occur. What are those long-term opportunities? And certainly when we think about, careers in, for example, grain merchandising, since we're talking about that here, are there, but the agronomic side of this and looking at precision agriculture, data sciences, some of the new fields that are emerging, AI is going to be a part of these students' careers, and thinking about how do we adapt and help farmers adjust to rapidly changing conditions with really excellent information on both agronomic, on marketing side, and that opportunities are all going to be there in the future for students coming out there because we need food, right? So it will be there. It's how do we weather some of these challenges that we're talking about here through time.
Yeah, and these challenges continue to evolve. I mean, right now, Ed, the main challenge for soybean farmers, of course, is China. The Trump administration saying this week that the soybean, that China is intentionally not buying U.S. soybeans. I don't think that comes as a shock to any of us. We've been talking about that for a while. They've been told not to buy U.S. soybeans. But do you think that business is lost for good, Ed?
Oh boy, that's a tough question. We had a trade war in 2018-19. Got by it, got a change in administration, and we got the sales back. I guess if I want to be hopeful, we can hope it comes back again.
Yeah, Pauline, I mean, how many more bushels are we talking that growers will have to produce next year to cover some of these added expenses? I know that's something that you focus on.
Talking to some producers this morning, hearing numbers of 70 more bushels on corn just to cover some of the increased fertilizer costs. So that's not easy to do, maybe not even possible to do. So there's certainly, it is a challenging environment, challenging financial environment right now for sure.
Brian, when you look at the University of Minnesota Extension and some of those efforts that we're talking about, how is that helping farmers today?
That's a great question. One thing, Pauline, I was thinking about when you were saying that is it's going to be a lot of capital management. Just for example, now I'm thinking about those short-term loans, long-term loans, the capital. The good news for agriculture is we're in a very different spot than we were in, say, the late 70s, early 80s, where farms have good capital investment. So there's those opportunities that's going to be a really key managerial piece, I think, going forward. To the question about what the University of Minnesota Extension is doing, we always encourage this point because there's going to be stress out there in farm country. There's programs within Extension, and the key thing is to reach out to support systems, right? Reach out. We have farmer lender mediation, for example, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. That's an opportunity to work between lenders and farmers as they're managing some of those capital things. Certainly there's, we think about farm safety now. We're still in the harvest seasons. We're still in that stage. And what happens is people are stressed. They're moving through those safety programs about just day-to-day things of taking care of the priority, which is your family, your people, your workers managing those farms. And that's all part of our extension effort across the state.
Pauline, you're talking to a lot of farmers right now. Real quick, wrap us up. What do you want farmers to know?
Good question. Take a look and push the pencil to your finances. Talk to your lender. Build that support, like Brian said. Reach out if you need help. There's great collaboration between the university and the state of Minnesota with some of those programs. But there are resources out there to help. So always seek out the tools or the individuals that can help you.
Ed, real quick, what are you telling farmers?
Look at the big carries in the market. Today's price is really terrible. You look at today's prices, pretty much as low as they've been in the last year. But in the corn market, for example, if you looked for delivery in April or May, you've got a 35 to 40 cent premium. You've got a 50-cent premium to hang on to your soybeans out into the spring. I don't know if that solves all the problems, but it's a hell of a lot better than today's price. In addition, no one wants to talk about spring wheat. I like spring wheat. Up in the northwest part of the country, if you'll hold out to January, you can get a 50-cent premium for wheat. 50 cents for 3 months. That's how big the carry is.
Pauline, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more U.S. Farm Report.